So again, this is an informal grid. Put my horizon line all the way across. Drop in a vertical, well actually I'm not going to drop the vertical line yet. This is my vanishing point. I already have my diagonal vanishing point set up to the right and my station point down below. My station point is 14 inches below the horizon line. That's how long my distance line is. And now I'm going to create a, my horizon line is a little bit above the midpoint on my paper. So with this one, I'm going to make this one at, it doesn't matter if it's between 6 and 7. I'm going to do this one at 6. This one's going to be a little bit different than the previous one, but just a smidgen different. Okay, so I'm going to put my line all the way across. And then I'm going to decide the width of my unit. So I keep mine about 3/4 of an inch. A 1/2 inch is too small and an inch is too big. But I'm not measuring it either. So I'm going to draw a line to the vanishing point. And then from the diagonal vanishing point, oh, I guess I can put this midline now. This is my, I can draw this part of the distance line, but I'm just going to stop it right here at the measuring line. And I'm just going to indicate this as 0. And then line up my diagonal vanishing point to 0 on the measuring line and draw a diagonal to the diagonal vanishing point, which gives me the depth of my first row of my grid. But it also helps me create a square. The grid is based on the depth and width of a square, so that's why we have it here. So let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. Tilt it down. So based on this, there's not enough information for me to continue with the grid until I draw another line from the diagonal vanishing point to A. That's A. So I'm going to line up the diagonal vanishing point with A. People like labels, so I just put A. And with that, as it crosses the depth of the square, or the depth of the row, that creates the next column converging to the vanishing point, or the next converging line to the vanishing point. Now, based on this, it crossed the first line I drew to 0 from the diagonal vanishing point, which gives me the depth of my second row. So I not only drew 4 squares, but I also drew a depth of that square all the way across for my second row. And as it crosses, it crossed the line from the diagonal vanishing point going to A, which gives me the width of my next column converging to the vanishing point. So I'm going to flip-flop back and forth between these lines that cross the grid to 0 and A from the diagonal vanishing point to build my grid. Now you do want to make this as neat as possible. Sometimes your paper will get snagged. So it's always good to tape it down where it rips. So a lot of people wonder, well, if your paper rips, how do you preserve it later on? Get a piece of Scotch tape and tape it down and it'll be permanent. It might turn yellow, but it won't turn yellow before your tracing paper does. The great thing is once one side is built, the other side is lightning fast. So with this side, I will use my secondary diagonal vanishing point, or I can use my existing vanishing point. If I use the secondary diagonal vanishing point, I'll draw a line to 0 and continue that grid. Let's see. I think I can finish this in 2 minutes. You'll notice a trick that I do to make sure my lines are spot on. I'll decide what depth it's going to be, like I'll put my pencil point there, then I'll pivot my straight edge, or whatever I'm using, my triangle or whatever. Okay, there it is. I can continue to build this grid deeper if I use my diagonal vanishing point again. To here. And with that, wherever it crosses the lines converging to the vanishing point is where these rows are going to be, going all the way across. So if your original measurement was too small, you would not have the luxury of doing this because your lines are just way too small to be able to use, or your measurements are just too small. So you get to build your grid accordingly. Now, it is informal. It's not supposed to be perfect at all. It's never going to be perfect. But we'll get to a perfect grid when we draw the formal. So from the top of your paper, this is the big sheet of paper, you're going to place your horizon line at 6 inches. And put it all the way across on this big sheet of paper. And as I told you before, I'm going to create an extension because I want my cone of vision to be quite large. I do recommend that you do this for this grid, because this is not a grid that you're just going to be drawing those boxes, some simple boxes with. This is a tool that you will hopefully continue to use in the years to come or semesters to come. And find the center. This is 24 inches, so find the center. Drop a vertical line straight down. If you have to measure it, you can measure it. You can eyeball it too. So obviously this is your horizon line. This represents your center of vision and your vanishing point. Now we did two kinds of grids on Tuesday, but I'm only going to show you the demo for the formal grid, and you can do the informal grid for homework when the video is live on YouTube. Okay, so I'm taping my paper extensions down. And I'm going to drop this vertical line below. Like that. In fact, I will extend this even further. Now eventually I'll move it back, but for now I'm going to keep it like this so you can actually see where everything is. And I got my really big ruler so you can see my big measurements. Now you have to be at least 12, your station point has to be at least 12 inches below. That's not recommended. I'm just saying that it should be at least 12 inches below. I'm going to make mine at 14 because that's going to be really close to what I already have for the previous demonstration. And it's perfect for what we're going to be using for this class in 1-point perspective. And now with that, I will draw a line, I will draw a 45-degree line using my 45-90 triangle all the way up to the horizon line. So I do need to extend this horizon line. There we go. So now I have my diagonal vanishing point, I have my station point. So I like labeling these because it makes it a little bit easier to remember, especially because we have a lot of terms in this class, and this makes it quite a bit easier once you start labeling them. Okay. Okay, so from here, now we can start to build our grid. This is our basic structured approach. You can continue to do this, use the structured approach over and over again. But now, again, based on this, now we can build our grid. So with this, we can lay a fresh sheet of tracing paper on top of this. And tape it down. I usually match the top of my 18 by 24 inch paper. I match the top of it and keep it more or less centered laterally. So this is hitting the top of my paper up here. Bring this up just to make it nice and straight. And this is directly centered. And I am eyeballing it. I'm not trying to measure it or anything like that. Oh, I do have to make it a little bit straighter. There we go. That doesn't matter. I just bring this paper all the way to the top of my big sheet of paper and tape it down. And then put your horizon line in on this sheet of paper. And also your distance line. Actually, I'm not going to put the distance line in yet. We'll just leave this for now. So I've zoomed in a little bit. So I have my horizon line in, I have my diagonal vanishing point, of course my station point down below. This is directly centered from side to side. And now we need to create, we need to decide where our measuring line is. Okay, so everybody all together, what is the distance of our measuring line? Where do we put our measuring line? What was the distance that I gave you guys? 7 inches. 7 inches? Are you guys sure? Is it 7? 6. Raise your hand if you think it's 6. 3 people? 4 people? The rest of you say it's 7? All right, let's see. It's 6. It's 6. 7 was the informal. 7 was the informal. It's all right, don't redo it. Okay, so measuring line, I'm going to place that 6 inches below the horizon line. This is not the horizon line I'm drawing. There's no such thing as having 2 horizon lines or 2 eye levels. This is our measuring line. The measuring line also can be thought of as the bottom of the picture plane, and it's certainly the ground line for our plane. And I will put this in blue because this is permanent. This is the ground line. It's part of the grid that we're going to draw. And even this one is going to be in blue too. From the vanishing point or center of vision to the measuring line. You can label this too if you feel like it. Obviously this is a horizon line. Okay, so right here, right below this distance line, or let's say right below the measuring line, write 0. And to the right and left of 0, we're going to create 3/4 inch units. Now, what does this mean? It means that when we build our grid, every one of these units is going to be exactly 3/4 of an inch. Now, this is what 3/4 of an inch looks like. Let me put it right here in the light. This is a full inch. Every one of these units here, there's 4 of them, or technically 3 of them, in between 0 and 1. This is 1/4, 2, and 3. Now, this is on a conventional ruler, on a conventional imperial measurement ruler, which means inches. Now, every one of the units for our grid has to be this length. Don't make the mistake of using the edge of your ruler as 0. This is 0 right here. This is where you start measuring from, not the edge of your ruler. Max, can I borrow your ruler really quick? The strange one? Okay. So, I know some of you in your kit have this ruler in here. Now, I know it doesn't show those kind of units. All right, I know it doesn't show those kind of units. It shows something a little bit different because now it shows increments of 30. And I'm not sure why they have increments of 30, but they do. So with that said, 24 represents 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so if you have this weird ruler, 24 is the unit that you want to use. Do not use, you'll notice that even at the end of this ruler, it says 0. That's where you start measuring from. You don't use the end of your ruler. Okay? The reason why many rulers have their units like this is because when they make rulers, it's basically stamped. It's stamped metal. And so they want to make sure they put accurate measurements in, because this little length, between the edge of the ruler and the actual measuring line is never going to be the same. It will be inaccurate. Some rulers will actually work right to the very edge. It's just how it is, but some of them don't. Don't make the mistake of using the edge of your ruler for that measurement. So even on my architect scale, they're not using the edge of the ruler. They're not even using this. This just shows what 3/4 of an inch looks like. You'll notice the 0 starts way over here. Okay, so with that said, how do you put your measurements on this line? The old school way is to do it like this. 1, 2, 3/4. Every one of these units represents 3/4 of an inch. And you have to move your ruler at 0. Move it over, match it up with every one of these units here. Match up the edge of your measurements on your ruler with the tick mark that you created. And you move your ruler over. Now, if you have that funky ruler, can I use your funky ruler again? Yeah, of course. You do the same thing. You start off at 24 and you move your ruler over and over and over until you're correct. Now, notice something here. You have to be spot on. When I put my last tick mark in here, I put it at 1. We're not using 1-inch units. We're using 3/4 of an inch. So why are we using 3/4 of an inch? Because an inch is too big and anything below 3/4 of an inch is too small. And I did it again. And I'm sure you can appreciate that we didn't use 5/8 of an inch. If you have a conventional ruler, you can count 3/4 all the way down if you like. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can do this all the way down to make sure it's accurate. Now, personally, I do not like using the ruler like that because it can be kind of confusing. So there's a couple different ways that I use or have used in the past or showed students that they can use that can make it a little bit easier. If you have a conventional ruler like this, you can just count 3/4 inches. 1, 2, 3, make a mark. 1, 2, 3, make another mark. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. You just count. So that's one way to do it. And you do this all the way down to the edge of your paper. Or, oh, but remember, you're starting from 0 and you're working to the right. You're going to start at 0 and you work to the left. Don't start on one end and then make 3/4 inch units. Okay, but I like using an architect scale because it makes it faster. And if you're interested in using an architect scale, I can show you how to use it. Okay, so I'm going to do this here, and now I'm going to do this on this side as well. And you may not be able to start at 3/4 of an inch, but you might have to use your ruler upside down to make it work. But again, I prefer not to do it this way because it can get very confusing. So that's why I use my architect scale, because I can just plop this down and draw my units on my measuring line. Now, wherever these units are, you need to draw those lines converging to the vanishing point. However, over here, if you want to stop at 9 units, you can stop at 9 units if you like. Yes, the whole grid is on tracing paper. From here, and we're going to draw a line to 0. Now, what this does is it gives us a depth for our grid. Wherever these lines converge into the vanishing point and the line from the diagonal vanishing point meet is where you create each row for your grid. One of the things that you're going to find out very, very quickly is nothing is made up in perspective. Everything, you're accountable for every single line that you draw. And it can, whatever you draw, it can affect everything. So if you're trying to draw in a very precise manner, you need to make sure your pencils are sharp. You need to make sure that you double check your measurements, like they say in construction or carpentry. Measure twice, cut once. Or in this case, measure twice, draw once. Especially when you're drawing these lines in here. Some of you are actually redoing your grid because of that. So it should look like that. Now, if done right, every one of these squares should have this diagonal running through it. And you do it again. Let me make sure this line is spot on. There we go. Okay, then you do it again up here to extend your grid. And that's our base grid. Okay, so I'm going to create the wall, and I'm going to 9 units over. The reason why I'm doing 9 units is because it's literally on the paper. So it's on, I think it's on everybody's paper. So I'm going to draw a vertical line up. The size of it's kind of arbitrary. And you can either create 3/4 inch units vertically upward. You can use whatever method you feel more comfortable with. I'm going to use my architect scale for this. But this represents 0, and you start from here, going all the way up. So if you decide to get an architect scale, make sure you get it in imperial measurements, which means inches. It's not required, but I know some people like them. Okay, so I have this going all the way up, and now I'm going to draw lines converging to the vanishing point. I'm going to start at the top and work down. Okay, I was a little bit hasty on this line, so I'm going to fix it right away so I don't have to erase anything later. There we go. Okay, and now from here I can take all of these units here and draw a vertical line straight up from them. To finish my grid. And you know, I really messed up the first one. I hate when that happens. Okay, so wall is done. Okay, so in the end, it should look like this. Now, how high is this? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 feet high. If you do yours at 12, 12 can work, or 12 is about right here. 12 can work. But 14 is even better because you have a little bit more, you have a lot more options with that. And again, with this, you have something that you can use in the future. The measurements for the boxes that we're using are these right here. You're going to do you're going to do 7 boxes altogether. This represents length, width, and height. You're going to do 2 that's 3 cubed, 2 that are 3 by 5 by 7, 1 that's 1 by 5 by 8, another one that's 2 by 6 by 9, and one more, which makes 7, that's 3 by 4 by 4. Now, the height is not negotiable, but the length and width are negotiable. You can flip-flop them if you want to. So with that, I'm going to put my sheet of tracing paper down. I'm going to put it right on top of the other one. I'm going to match it. And I'm going to place my horizon line down. I'm not going to redraw the grid, I'm just going to draw the boxes on this. Obviously this is that's my center of vision and my vanishing point. So the first box I have is, the first box I have is 3 cubed. So I create the footprint first. It makes it easier to kind of plop everything where I need it to be. Remember, do not place anything along the first foot wall, first foot of the ground plane or the wall. So I'm going to place one right here. This one is 3 by 3 by 3. So again, length and width are interchangeable. And do not place all of them along the wall. So here's 3 units wide by 3 units deep, and now I have to make it 3 units high. So I'm going to go to my wall, because the wall itself is our height line. This gives us the height of anything that we draw. Now, I'm not going to start over here and go up 1, 2, 3. I'm going to start over here, where it hits the wall. And now I'm going to go up 1, 2, and 3 feet. 1, 2, and 3. So why am I saying 3 feet is because our grid has a scale of 3/4 inches represents 1 foot. So this is 3 feet. Now if I bring up another line here, match this, bring it all the way across, there is 3 feet right there. And now I can finish the rest of the cube. You can extend longer lines if you feel it's necessary, but make sure to erase what you don't need. Okay, so there is a 3-foot cube. Now I'm going to place another 3-foot cube. I'm going to place this cube back here. Okay, there's this one. It's 3 feet wide by 3 feet deep. So create the footprint first. And here's 3 feet deep. So now I need to create the height of it. Now I'm going to use the back wall or the back edge here for it, just to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go all the way to the wall right here and go up 3 units. 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to raise these 2 verticals and bring this length all the way over to here. So I take that depth to go all the way to the left wall, which represents our measuring line or measuring height, and I go up 1, 2, 3 units and go all the way across horizontally to get that depth. And this is for the back wall. Doesn't matter if you use the front wall or the rear wall. I'm going to bring these verticals up. And these lines are very acute. These angles are very acute. So with something like this, I'm actually going to zoom in, you guys can see. So this could present a problem. Now, do I want it here? Yes, I want to place it there. But when I create this angle, it's so acute that I may not know where this ends because it's such a tight area, especially with this one. It's so tight that that can present a very, very big problem when I put a horizontal line all the way across. So my best option is to use the wall again, go up 3 feet, There's 3 feet right here. And now I can bring this all the way across so I know exactly where my line is. Anytime you have these very acute angles, sometimes it makes it a little bit easier just to use the height, line as a guide, so you can get something that's fairly accurate. Otherwise, it can get really frustrating. The only other option is you just don't put your cube here. You put it somewhere else where you're not going to run into like weird problems like that. All right, so let me do an oddball one. Let's do the 2 by 6 by 9. That's a big one. So let's see. I'll place that one way over here. Let me back up a little bit because we need some space. Okay, so there's 2 feet by 6, 2, 4, 6. So I'm going to place 2 lines here for the front plane. It's kind of arbitrary. I made them quite long. Now I'm going to go all the way over to here, to the wall, and now I'm going to go up 9. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I have an eye level of 8 feet. So there's 9. And now I'm going to bring this all the way across to here. There's the height. There's 9 feet. And now I can finish my drawing. Now I can bring these verticals up. Again, its height is arbitrary until I use, until I draw lines from the front plane to the vanishing point. Okay, so there's my box that is 2 by 6 by 9 feet. Now, if you have a piece of furniture that's 2 by 6 by 9 feet, what could that possibly be? Could be a cabinet. It seems impossible. A 9-foot cabinet? My daughter has 10-foot cabinets in her bedroom. Goes all the way to the ceiling. And there's 2 of them put together, so they're about 3 feet wide together. They're about this size. They're pretty big. All right, so there it is. 2 by 6 by 9. 9 feet, 2 feet, oh, I put 9 inches, or 2 inches. This is 6 feet. Okay, so you have 7 boxes. Make sure you guys write these down before you go. If you don't finish before the end of class, this is your homework, besides doing some research for drawing 1. If you need to review the video to finish the homework, then feel free to do that. Again, I will try to get it edited ASAP. It's not going to be as big as the exploding cube, though. Exploding cube was a juggernaut.